This 24-25 season, I think we are going to see the arrival of this next generation of big men. And ironically, those three on the thumbnail here, Gen Z, they're kind of throwbacks, all of them in their personality. They're not very Gen Z-ish in their personalities and the way they act, right? And take that for what it's worth. But I wanted to start with the man in the middle. You noticed Paolo Banchero is front and center on that thumbnail because he is hidden down in Orlando. He doesn't get a lot of national exposure. And, we get it, the Wemby hype. OKC is a dominant team, so Chet has been famous since high school. But Paolo Banchero is quietly becoming one of the toughest matchups in the NBA, where your respected team matches up against the Magic. Who do you put on him? Who do you put on him, right? Because he has this perfect balance of bully ball and perimeter skills, and he's putting it together with this no-nonsense temperament that looks like is going to be dominant for years. Oh, yeah, and he's built to last. And so in the Magic's opener the other night, they're playing their rival, the Miami Heat. I guess you could call it, it's not really a rivalry, but it's a proximity rivalry, right? And you say, okay, Bam Adebayo, he might be one of 3 or 4 guys in the league that can actually guard Paolo Banchero. He put belt to ass on Bam Adebayo in the opener. 33-11, 4 of 8 from 3, 12 of 24 from the field, and just a dominant performance. And again, he's not getting the attention because of where he plays. They haven't been good for a while, but his natural strength, you can get stronger and you can play with force, but your base is kind of your base, meaning like the width of your hips, your natural weight. Banchero he's bully ball, man, but now that he's shooting the 3, and I really like his temperament. He doesn't get too up or too down. He's not hitting all these sellies and stuff. He just kind of attacks and plays basketball. And I just don't know who, I'm curious to see Draymond match up against him. But again, I think Draymond won't be able to deal with his bully ball. He's too big. He's too big, right? And you can't put a center on him. He's bringing the ball up. And this young Magic team looks like they're ready to take a step. They've signed their young core long term, but Paolo Banchero is coming. And here's the thing. A lot of big modern forward/centers, bigs, in theory, should be able to do what Banchero does. Hey, you put a smaller wing on him, take him, bully ball him. And if you put a big on him, then you work him on the perimeter. But that's not how it usually plays out, right? Because I think a lot of the stretch forwards and bigs in the league, they play that way in part because they don't want to play with their back to the basket. They don't want to play physical, right? The game has gotten less and less physical on the grassroots level, the AAU circuit. And you got to, I think, also credit Coach K at Duke for letting Paolo be Paolo and play from the nail and handle the ball and start to develop the perimeter skills and use his physicality. And so listen, man, I wouldn't be surprised at all if 5 years from now, Paolo is the new king of big men. And he is the most dominant big man in the league because, again, he's built for last, love the temperament, super fundamentally sound, and he, again, a no-nonsense attitude. Now they're building a team around him. They could use some more shooting for sure, but I don't know what you're going to do with this guy. So if you're turning on the NBA early and you're on the West Coast or you've got League Pass, check out the Orlando Magic. Not only are they a fun watch because they play so hard and they're kind of bullies, even though they're a young team, but Paolo Banchero is quickly becoming one of the best players in the NBA. Let's move over to Chet Holmgren. Kind of a coming out party against Jokic last night in the opener. We all know who Chet is, right? But I mean, that was a statement performance from Chet. Heart's out. The other Jalen Williams is out. Like, it's Chet versus Jokic. And right away, it's funny. I've noticed Jokic does struggle, I think, with these super lanky guys at times that can hollow out, right? Chet, he can hollow out. He doesn't let Jokic get into his body, and then he contests late and uses all that length. And, I think the thing that's most impressive about Chet Holmgren is his motor. For a player of that size to play with that motor, I don't think we've ever seen it, right? He is the dog of these 3. Not to say that the other 2 don't have dog in them, but Chet's a dog, right? Now, I know that they've tried to tighten up his three-pointer and his jump shot. It's something that I pointed out in the playoffs last year, where his arms are so long that sometimes the ball the release gets out too far in front of him, and then that's why the shot comes out flat. He's not able to bring in the arms and get an arc on it. And so I know he's altered that. He was 0 of 5 from 3 last night, but I don't know if he needs to take but 1 or 2 threes a game with his stride, his ball handling, and his playmaking. I also think he is the best playmaker of these 3 right now. And so, yeah, he may take 1 or 2, right? You don't want him to fall in love with it, but one step he's in the paint. He sees the court, right? He's got probably the better, I won't say the better, but he's got enough handle, right? And then you've seen the added strength. And that's the key. Wemby, Chet, they're not going to add size. They have to add functional strength, the ability to absorb contact and get back on balance or remain on balance. And so, Chet, man, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the way he plays. My only real question for him, and you could say this about everybody, but durability, when you're a dog like Chet, right? He has no chill. I'm not sure if he's ever going to learn to make some business decisions in the paint, right? Where it's like, I probably shouldn't rotate over or sell out on this block right now, because he's just wired. He has that dog mentality. So that's always going to be a concern. But Chet, as a playmaking 5, a high motor guy, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Kevin Garnett in a lot of ways, like a modern Kevin Garnett. That temperament, that dog, so skinny but yet so tough, and his energy, it seeps in to whatever team he's playing on. And this OKC Thunder come as advertised, right? And I get Denver is playing the consensus number 1 team in the West, but Denver might just want to trade Jokic, right? Just trade Jokic for the Detroit Pistons, right? I don't know what Denver's going to do. They're kind of in a bad spot, right? But that's a story for another time. Let's move on to Wemby. They played the Klay Thompson-led Dallas Mavericks last night. Look, man, I get the hype on Wemby. He is the most spectacular player we have seen in a long time, right? But that doesn't mean he's going to become the best. And I didn't like the threes that he was taking last night. I saw someone tweet something out to the effect of, the NBA should be happy because Wemby has chosen to be KD, not Hakeem. Essentially meaning like he thinks he's a jump shooter on the perimeter, and that's not going to be the best of him. As agile as Wemby is for his size, it's still going to take him a bit longer to get on balance and get into a shot. And so I didn't like the movement threes coming down and just movement. I think he needs to be more settled. And there's no reason why he can't take settled, feet set, standstill threes at his size. Who's getting to the shot? And sure enough, he finally hit one on a side out of bounds where he took the beat, his feet settled, he got on balance, and he made the shot. But I'm more curious with Wemby's mentality, right? Because clearly he wants to score the ball. And I think, they're going to figure it out. Like, you got to get him the ball at the nail. I understand why he doesn't want to play with his back to the basket. Have you ever experienced this? It depends on how tall you are of a person, right? But when you're playing someone that's a lot shorter than you, and they're just under your hips all the time, like you try to back them down and they're literally under your hips, and they have all the leverage. It's very exhausting. Now, you can turn and make shots, right? But it's exhausting. So I kind of understand why Wemby doesn't want these guys all up under his hips with his back to the basket. But I'd like to see Wemby look to be more of a playmaker. Now, you got to put more scoring around him and shooting around him, right? But I think he's a little too thirsty to shoot and score. And we know he can, right? And hey, your nature is your nature. So that's what it is. But he's just too quick trigger with the threes. And of course, the durability is always a thing. But I guess shooting all those threes will probably lead to better longevity rather than getting downhill and creating. With the Spurs, look, I like Devin Vassell and I like Castle. I like those 2 young guys around him. They're 2 bigger wings who don't need the ball and can defend. But in order to nurture Wemby as a playmaker, I think you need to put more scoring around him eventually. But overall, I just think people are a little too quick to anoint Wemby Never mind the next face of the league, he might not be the best big man in the league moving forward. When you look at Paolo, Chet, some of y'all may be on the Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley tip. So let me know in the comments, rank these 5 guys moving forward. Not necessarily right now, but for the next 5 years. Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Wemby, Evan Mobley, and Scotty Barnes. Now, if you're new to the channel, I've been doing this for about 7 or 8 years. I cover the Golden State Warriors. I've been doing that, but I'm looking to break off, cover more of the league. So tap in for the season and hit that subscribe. I'm out, y'all.